Hey, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peace Podcast. This is season 2, episode 32. Just give me the ability to stop people pleasing, whatever that looks like. And so, if you're local to me, you know that the first week of school for kids and the county fair fall in the same week every year. And if you're listening and you're part of that planning process, can we please stop doing that? Because it is, pretty taxing and tiring for the parents who have to or want to provide that opportunity for their kids. And then there are kids who are showing animals and all these other things, and their parents have to get them there. And it just becomes this crazy rush from first week of school to the fair, and all the kids are tired, and all the teachers are dealing with tired kids who've gone to the fair, and it just becomes a mess. So if you're part of that planning process, please know we don't love that. But anyway, so I found myself this week, my kids wanted to go to the fair, and I commute to my workplace, my coaching job. And so I commute over an hour, and my days start really early, and I don't get home until, later in the evening. And so I was trying to make it so that they could go where they needed to be or wanted to be, while also staying true to the fact that I was super tired. And it didn't work out so well because I was super tired, and I ended up taking them to the fair twice, and I didn't want to be there. I was cranky while I was there, and I was trying to enjoy the fair experience with them, all while protesting in my brain about how tired I was. And I began to think about how you can fall into the trap of people pleasing with your own kids, and how I've done it in relationship before. And I know people talk about people pleasing a lot because it's, a trending topic, and, it's something that is plaguing a lot of us and putting us in bondage. But one of the things that I feel like is missing is that in those messages we hear, well, just stop doing things for other people and consider yourself. But if you don't really know the why, the cause, or the root of that wound, then it's really difficult to just stop people pleasing. It's really difficult to just consider yourself over other people, especially when you've been given the messaging that it's selfish to do so. So I thought we should talk about that. But first, I wanted to share with you, my real life accounts of me doing those type of things, and then later questioning why I'm doing it and what it is that possessed me to put that need of someone else over my own desires. And I feel like there's a misconception between self-sacrifice for your kids and self-sacrifice for your relationship, and really that toxic self-sacrifice of always putting yourself last on the list and never doing what you need to do above what everyone else needs from you. And I want to preface this by saying I understand the plight of a single mom, and I understand that your to-do list is long and it never ends, and there's always something that needs to be done. And so when people say, practice self-care and all these other things, it tends to be something else that just shows up on our list. So I don't want to be insensitive to that, because I do completely understand that plight, and I know exactly what that feels like and is like, because my to-do list is long, and sometimes I have to sacrifice what's on that to-do list to do the things that people in my life want me to do. But also, I notice that I'm putting things that are for me on that to-do list, and I don't consider those as something that I need for myself, or like self-care. It's just something else that I have to do, right? And so when we're thinking about this whole conundrum, it helps think about it inside of relationship too, not just with your kids, because those relationships are more self-sacrificing than other relationships should and could be. And so when I think about how I did this in relationship, I remember when I was in a relationship several years ago. He worked really long hours, and I was teaching. And so I worked shorter hours, but I also was bringing a lot of work home. And then I had a baby, and then I had a teenage son, and, an elementary age daughter. And we would get home well before him, and I would cook dinner every night, and I was doing everyone's laundry. And, my days didn't end until 10 o'clock at night. And on the weekends, when he was at home, he would sleep in and take care of himself and go to the gym and do all the things that he wanted to do. And while sometimes I would accompany him to the gym, most of my weekends were spent cleaning and, doing all of the things that didn't get done during the week because it was so hectic. And so I remember thinking to myself one Sunday, as I was meal prepping for myself and also him. And he was not helping because I'm not sure where he was, but most of the time he was at the gym or, sleeping in. And so I was like, why am I doing all of this and adding these things to my to-do list when my to-do list inside of this house is really long? And the excuse that I gave myself was, well, he works longer hours than you. But then I thought, well, but you're working inside the house and your day never ends because once you put the kids to bed, then you're grading papers and then you wake up to do it all over again. And so it was really toxically self-sacrificing to make sure that the needs of everyone around me were met. And we won't 100% get into the benefit of that to ourselves. But I do think that it's worth mentioning that the reason that we do that is because we want to control the situation by pleasing the people in the situation so that they won't reject us or abandon us. And so that's a big part of why we sacrifice ourselves so much. Because we think that the self-sacrifice is worth not being abandoned, when really, if you have people who respect and consider you, they won't abandon you. They'll just do more when you start to explain how that self-sacrifice is not working for you. And so when you think about people pleasing, one of the things that I really, really, really hope that you get from this pod, if nothing else, is this real definition of the difference between caring and what caring does for people, and the difference between self-sacrifice and what that does for what it does inside of you. So caring drives kindness, which basically means that when you're caring for people and when you're doing things out of your caring parts, it's going to create a feeling of kindness. Like, I'm doing this because I want to do this for you and I'm being kind, and there's nothing else. There's no resentment that appears because of it. There's no animosity that appears because of it. You're doing it out of a caring heart and not expecting anything in return, or not doing it to gain something for yourself. But when you do things in a place of toxic self-sacrifice, what's happening is you're operating out of your fear parts that tell you, I'm afraid of being disliked, so I'm going to do more than I have in me to do so that that doesn't happen. And that breeds resentment and all of those feelings of misalignment inside of yourself and animosity toward the people that you're doing things for. And so the care is kind of extracted from it because you're doing things to be liked. And when you think about this in terms of your kiddos, because I think that's an easier place to just see it, when you're doing things because you're caring for them. So I'm going to make this project with you, or I'm going to play this game with you. You do it with a sense of joy. When you're doing it because you feel an obligation to spend that 20 minutes a day of connection time with them, then you find yourself being annoyed by the game that you're playing or the activity that you're doing with them, because there's really something that you would prefer to be doing at the time, even if it's a job or a task on your to-do list. And you can feel it internally, even if you're able to mask it externally. So when you're looking at relationship and you're thinking about, am I doing this? Am I cooking dinner for my kids and making sure that they have a healthy meal, or for my family or for my husband and making sure they have a healthy meal out of care for them? Or do I resent the fact that I have to do these things for everybody? Because once that resentment comes in, it's your indicator that you're self-sacrificing in a toxic way. because there are things that we can delegate for other people to do inside of that space, even if it's having your kids help, which I know if you're anything like me, just adds more to your to-do list because now you have to supervise them. But having them help and delegating to them is a way for it to not feel so burdensome to you and not build that resentment inside of you, because at least other people are helping you do the thing. When you start to see those feelings of resentment and animosity come up, that's when you really have to sit back and do that self-assessment, because those pieces of you are data points. When you feel misaligned and when you feel resentful and when you feel like, oh, you guys don't do anything for yourself and I have to do everything for everybody, when that messaging and narrative starts to happen in your head, you have to extract it as data. Like, what am I doing for other people that I could delegate for them to do for themselves? What am I doing for other people to ensure that they like me, as opposed to doing it because I actually care? And can some things transfer from the I'm doing this to be liked to I'm doing this because I care for them? Absolutely. It can be the same action, and you can be doing it because you care, or you can be doing it because you want to be liked by them. It's what goes on internally inside of you that determines what the basis or the reasoning for that is. And when you're a people pleaser, most of the things that you're doing because you're to-do list is doing everything for everybody that they ask and never saying no, because you don't want them to abandon you and you want to be liked. And so by the time you get to the people that you really want to do the caring things for, there's nothing left inside of you to care for them. And everything you do comes from a place of resentment and animosity because you feel like everybody needs you too much. So one of the benefits of being able to say no to the things that are toxic self-sacrifices is then you get to transfer those things that you've been feeling resentment about and you really want to do them out of care. You get to transfer them into the caring bucket because you don't feel so empty and depleted that those things feel burdensome too. And so we really have to understand and know that we don't have to say yes to everything. In my examples, I could have been like, we're going to the fair once. We're not going to go to the fair twice. We're going to pick either Wednesday or Saturday. Saturday, we can stay longer. Wednesday, we got to go by this time. You guys choose what day you want to go. But instead, I felt obligated to take one on the Wednesday because she wanted to go with a friend and all of her school friends were going to be there. And then to take the other on a Saturday because he wanted to play the games. And we didn't really do much of that on the Wednesday. And so I ended up going both days. And then both days, I felt annoyed and frustrated. Whereas if I would have made that choice to say, we're only going on one day, because that's all I have the bandwidth to do, then I would have found some joy in that one day. And in the example with the food prep for the other relationship, like I could have said, I'm going to prep the lunches and you can prep the breakfasts. And if he didn't prep the breakfast, then I could have found an alternative for myself. But instead, I begrudgingly did all of the things while doing all of the laundry and never saying no to anything because I didn't want him to get angry or upset. Instead of just deciding that I was going to delegate some of this to him and then make modifications to whatever was going on with me. So then, instead of feeling annoyed that I was cooking dinner every night and annoyed that I was cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner plus meal prepping on a Sunday, I would have started to feel joy inside of cooking dinner because that's actually something that I like doing instead of feeling those feelings of resentment. So one of the things that we really need to think to ourselves is, instead of feeling annoyed about all the things that I'm doing for everybody, my no is going to free up some bandwidth for me to be able to find joy in the things that I'm doing to care for the people that I love, instead of having everything be a space of toxic self-sacrifice because I want to be liked by all the people who are asking me to do all the things. Sometimes people aren't going to like you even if you do all of the things. And that was my relationship. No matter what I did, I was going to be frowned upon for something and treated poorly for something because it was never enough. So you have to think, who's the request coming from? And even if I'm doing it to be liked, am I ever really going to be liked by this person? And am I willing to forego the request of the people who I really do care about, like my kids or the people who, feed back into my life, if I'm doing everything for this person, how am I going to find joy inside of what I'm doing for them? And so you have to be willing to say no to the people who are using you because they know that you operate in that space of toxic self-sacrifice in order to say yes to the people who deserve your kindness and caring. Something else that I really just attached to immediately when I thought about it, and I've read some information on it, is that when we are operating in insecurity, and a lot of the things that we do come from a place of ego and come from a place of being insecure, but when we're operating in insecurity, especially when you have a tendency to be a people pleaser, your main goal is to be adored by everybody because you need that to fill up the void that's inside of you because you don't feel good enough. So maybe if I do enough, meaning all the things, for the right people, meaning all the people, then that will fill my void of not being enough. But the reality is, your void will not be filled that way because then the void just becomes greater because you start to feel used. So now you're saying, I'm doing all the things for all the people, and I'm never saying no, but also I feel resentment because I'm being used by these people and I'm not getting the adoration in return that I thought that I would receive. And so if you're doing things from a space of insecurity and the transactional piece inside of that is I do more for people, I gain more adoration, you're going to realize that that adoration has to come from you. Because if I adore myself enough, I'm going to respect my no. I'm going to covet and hold on to that time that is the amount of capacity I have to give the caring pieces of me. I'm going to hold on to it for the people who I feel like deserve it in my life, not just give it out freely to everyone. Think of it as an investment. If someone's not investing in you, then why are you doing things for them that is taking away from the capacity that you have to give and do caring things for the people that you care about? And this is not to say that you can't do random acts of kindness for people, because if you have the bandwidth to do that left after you're caring for all the people that you love, then absolutely, of course. But it's saying that when you're giving people full access to your gifts, the things that you're really good at, and then you run out of capacity, then you're not giving that gift to the people who deserve it in your life, like your kids and a partner who's actually loving and caring, or even to yourself, because we forget that we need some left or even to take from the top to give to ourselves. And in the alternate part of this, so insecurity requires you to feel like you need to be adored by everybody. But feeling secure in who you are and being able to love yourself at all costs gives you the capacity and the ability to be able to operate in a space where you're trying to, and you are earning respect from other people. So insecurity breeds, I need adoration, while security breeds, I'm operating in a space where I'm earning respect from people. Because I can tell you that I have seen in work and in life people who never say no. And then they walk around the workplace and life feeling like they have these badges of honor because they skipped lunch today to say yes to somebody. Or they've been working so hard today that they haven't been able to take the 30-minute or 15-minute breaks that are allotted to them. And they wear it like a badge of honor. Look what I skipped that I needed in the name of doing for other people. And the world we live in, sometimes it romanticizes that. Like the person who does above and beyond is the person who skips lunch and doesn't do the things that they need to do for themselves and hasn't used the bathroom all day and all of these things, because look how much care they're giving other people. That's not care. That's toxic self-sacrifice. If you're foregoing the things that you need to stay healthy and at your best, like food and basic needs like hydration and using the bathroom, that shouldn't be worn like a badge of honor. Somebody should be interceding, even if it's you, on your behalf to say, hey, this person is going to burn out really quickly if they're not even able to take their lunch break. And so because we live in a space where that is, look how good I am, and aren't I gaining your adoration because I'm toxically self-sacrificing. It takes even more for the people pleaser personality to say, I'm going to say no to this. I have to exhaust my no in this space. And I'm going to tell you that gains respect from people. And not only does it gain respect from people, people who are secure will notice it in you and they'll be like, I see what she did there. And those are boundaries. People who are insecure will judge you for it because they're not able to do it for themselves. And you're not here to create the most content space for all the people around you. You're here to be a representation and a model of what it's like to live in alignment with yourself. And when you're people pleasing and when you're not telling people no, and when you're more worried about being adored than you are being respected, then when you walk in the world, other people are going to know that you're an easy target to get taken advantage of, which is why women like us, do we attract those partners who are narcissistic or have controlling and narcissistic tendencies because they know it's going to be super easy to blame, shame, and guilt us into doing everything that they want us to do. So today I want to encourage you, if you're a people pleaser and you've been watching all the videos and content about how to stop being a people pleaser, please know that the very first thing and step and understanding that you need to make for yourself is to think about, am I so insecure that I require adoration from the world and the people around me? And if I am, then what do I need to work on to build that security and confidence inside of myself to be able to set the boundaries? Because there are some precursors to being able to do it, or otherwise it feels wrong, it feels mean, it feels disrespectful to set those boundaries when you're doing them to preserve yourself. And self-preservation is something that we really have to make sure that we're focusing on. So if you're sitting in that place of people pleasing today, I really want you to think about, is my security gaining the respect of other people, or is my insecurity causing me to need adoration from all these people? And you'll know, because if you're seeking validation for everything you're doing, if you send an email and you're awaiting that return anxiously to see if somebody liked what you said, if you're on social media and you need somebody to like what you posted, like all of those things are validation seeking. The second thing I want you to do is to really sit with the things that you do for other people. And you can write them down. Usually in a week's time, you'll be able to notice this. And write down the things that you do, and put a mark next to the things that you do in a feeling or a mental space of resentment or angst. Once you do that, if you're in a people-pleasing space, I guarantee you what you're going to find is 90% of the things that you're doing for other people are based on your toxic masculinity, goodness, your toxic self-sacrifice, more than they're based on your caring for people. Then what I want you to do is go back to those spaces and circle the things that you really wanted to be able to do out of care. Like, they didn't make you feel resentment and animosity toward those people, but not in a normal state they wouldn't, but now when you did them in this state, they did, because you were doing so much for so many other people. Go ahead and circle those things. And when you do, what you're going to find is probably 50% of the things are things that you actually want to do for other people, that bring you joy to be able to do them as a caring person for other people. But you did them out of obligation and resentment because of all of those the 50% of the other 90% that you did because you couldn't find your no. We are not put here to be used by other people. We are put here to be gifted to other people so that they are able to experience our gifting. We are put here to be able to love on and show grace to other people, but we are not put here to be a footstool to those people. So if you find yourself in that space today, I would encourage you to check your insecurity and also to check your ability to say no. If you listened to this message and it resonated with you, please like and subscribe to this page. Go to my social media platforms and follow me there, as well as reach out to me with a DM if you need some extra assistance. I have some resources that I can share with you as well. Remember that if you listen to knowledge gained for yourself is selfish, but it takes seconds to hit that share button and share it with a friend who you think it might help to break free from the bondage that they're experiencing. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.